Today, our topic is how to manage anger like a Stoic. Anger is a natural emotion, but if we let it control us, it can cause problems in our lives. The Stoics, ancient philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, believed that anger is not just harmful but also unnecessary. They thought that by understanding and practicing certain principles, we can manage anger and live a more peaceful life. Let's explore how we can use Stoic wisdom to handle anger better. First, it's important to understand what anger is. Anger is a reaction to something we think is unfair or wrong. It often comes from feeling hurt, frustrated, or powerless. The Stoics believe that anger is not caused by the events themselves, but by how we interpret those events. In other words, it's not what happens to us that makes us angry, but how we think about what happens. This is a key idea in Stoicism. If we can change the way we think, we can change the way we feel. One way to do this is by practicing what the Stoics called Premeditatio malorum, which means premeditation of evils. This means thinking about the bad things that could happen in advance. By doing this, we prepare ourselves for challenges and reduce the chances of being caught off guard. For example, if you imagine that someone might criticize your work, you can plan how to respond calmly instead of reacting with anger. This practice helps us stay calm because we are not surprised by difficulties. Another Stoic technique is to pause before reacting. When something happens that makes us angry, our first impulse is often to act immediately. But the Stoics suggest taking a moment to breathe and think. Ask yourself, is this situation really worth getting angry about? Will my anger solve the problem or make it worse? By taking this pause, we give ourselves time to choose a better response. Seneca, a famous Stoic philosopher, said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." This means that by waiting, we can avoid saying or doing something we might regret later. The Stoics also believed in focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot control. This is one of the most important Stoic teachings. Many things in life are beyond our control, such as other people's actions, the weather, or traffic. When we try to control these things, we often feel frustrated and angry. But if we focus on what we can control, like our own thoughts, actions, and attitudes, we can reduce our anger. For example, if someone insults you, you cannot control their words, but you can control how you react. You can choose to stay calm and not let their words affect you. This shift in focus can make a big difference in how we handle anger. Another Stoic practice is to remind ourselves of the impermanence of life. The Stoics believed that everything in life is temporary. People, situations, and even our own emotions will change over time. When we feel angry, it can help to remember that this feeling will not last forever. By keeping this perspective, we can avoid getting stuck in our anger and move on more quickly. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often reminded himself of this. He wrote in his journal, "Remember that very little is needed to make a happy life." This means that we don't need much to be happy, and we shouldn't let small things upset us. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of self-reflection. They believe that we should regularly examine our thoughts and actions to understand why we feel the way we do. If we often feel angry, it's important to ask ourselves why. Are we expecting too much from others? Are we being too hard on ourselves? By understanding the root causes of our anger, we can work on addressing them. This self-awareness is a powerful tool for managing anger. One practical way to practice self-reflection is to keep a journal. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can help you see patterns in your behavior. For example, you might notice that you get angry when you feel ignored or when things don't go as planned. Once you identify these triggers, you can work on changing your reactions. The Stoics also believed in practicing empathy. Empathy means trying to understand other people's feelings and perspectives. When someone does something that makes us angry, it can help to put ourselves in their shoes. Maybe they are having a bad day, or they didn't mean to hurt us. By understanding their situation, we can feel less angry and more compassionate. This doesn't mean we have to agree with their actions, but it can help us respond more calmly. Epictetus, a Stoic teacher, said, "When someone does something wrong, remind yourself that they are human and make mistakes, just like you." This reminds us that everyone is imperfect, and we should not expect others to always act the way we want. Another important Stoic idea is to practice gratitude. Gratitude means being thankful for what we have. When we focus on the good things in our lives, we are less likely to get upset about the bad things. For example, if someone cancels plans with you, instead of getting angry, you can be grateful for the extra time to relax or do something you enjoy. By shifting our focus to the positive, we can reduce our anger and feel more content. The Stoics also believed in the power of reason. They thought that by using our rational mind, we can overcome our emotions. When we feel angry, it's often because we are reacting emotionally without thinking. But if we take a step back and use reason, we can see the situation more clearly. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of yelling, you can remind yourself that they might be in a hurry or not paying attention. By using reason, we can avoid letting our anger take over. Finally, the Stoics believed in the importance of virtue. Virtue means living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. They thought that by striving to be virtuous, we can live a good life and avoid unnecessary anger. For example, if someone treats you unfairly, instead of seeking revenge, you can choose to act with justice and fairness. By focusing on being a good person, we can rise above our anger and act in a way that we can be proud of. In conclusion, managing anger like a Stoic involves changing the way we think and act. By practicing techniques like premeditation, pausing before reacting, focusing on what we can control, and practicing empathy and gratitude, we can reduce our anger and live a more peaceful life. The Stoics believe that anger is not necessary, and that by using reason and virtue, we can overcome it. Remember, it's not what happens to us that makes us angry, but how we choose to respond. By applying these Stoic principles, we can take control of our emotions and live a happier, calmer life. So the next time you feel angry, take a moment to breathe, think, and choose a better response. You have the power to manage your anger and live like a Stoic.